Welcome to the beautiful Margaret River region in WA's southwest. Hi, I'm Molly Coy. I'm an artist, printmaker and a bookbinder. And I had a recent exhibition, 2016, in Art Geo in Busselton. And the theme for that exhibition was Nullarbor, time that I'd spent in the Nullarbor as a young woman trapping rabbits. So to rediscover those memories, what I did was I started with a journal, a retrospective journal. So I wished I'd actually kept one at the time, but I just went and wrote down my memories and did some drawings and basically mined back into that experience. And so from this journal, I then created an artist book. The artist book was called Narrative. That was the name of the exhibition. Nullarbor, 1966. Okay, that's a worry. The artist book, the case is a kangaroo leather yap binding. So that's a soft binding which just covers the pages and keeps them protected. It's got an emboss, sort of contemporary landscape, and the title. The end papers are textured, hand-painted in the vibrant colours of the sunset. Those colours are burned into my mind, just amazing, exquisite colours. Parchment and a map of the coast with Rawlinna way back over here, and two city kids, Timothy and Margaret Foster. That was me in a previous life, just married, 19 years old, heading on a big adventure in our old ute, 2 dogs, a tent and an old Holden ute. All the text in this book is handwritten and it's all hidden amongst the textures and the images on the pages. So this one here is off on our adventure and leaving the green behind. So we headed off into the unknown. I had never been to the desert, lived in the city, had no idea what was coming. It was all very exciting. Some nice textured paper. This reminds me of the limestone. There's such a lot of limestone out on the Nullarbor Plain. This is a little floating print, so it's not sewn down the centre into the book. It's sewn on a hidden wing. And this was east of Kalgoorlie. And just coming into the limestone. We drove at night and there were mobs of kangaroos just coming over the road. Hundreds, it seemed. This is tracks through the desert, just gravel, 2-wheel ruts in a red gravel ground. This is a particularly vibrant memory. We have here the dead tree and the budgerigars. What happened was, I walked past a tree that was in foliage, and as I moved past, the foliage took flight. It was just a flock, an enormous flock of budgerigars, green budgerigars. And everything out there is red. Driving through the dust, everything is red. The world is red. Tissues of rust. My rabbit trap. The rabbits thrive out there in that harsh country, and they were really a plague. So it was a living for people to trap them, and here's a rabbit trap. Horrible, nasty, vicious things, which I'm now pleased to say are illegal. Some cutouts, some die cuts, and that's to again evoke that feeling of the layered landscape, an ancient landscape. Here the eagle hovers with the dust and the heat haze in a dance. More tracks and limestone ridges, sparse vegetation. We lived in little dongas, which were small clumps of trees. We'd camp in those and then move out each day setting our traps. You'd come back to camp and gut the rabbits and hang them on a line and cover them up with hessian, and the buyer would come round the next morning before dawn and pick them up. This is my memories of the land out there, the limestone, the dry, cracked, red earth. It's a little monoprint on tissue, Japanese archival quality tissue. All the papers I use are archival quality, and the paint is artist quality acrylics. I paint and wipe and work back into it, abrade, sometimes emboss and polish. Here's my wind and willy willies. Constantly there'd be willy willies, dust storms coming across the landscape. Some lovely textured rice paper, just to bring back that feeling of the texture. Here we go, another one with the tracks and the dried earth. I like the colours on this page. And this is another little floating monoprint. This one's called Gates and Tracks. Because a lot of the land out there is station country, you're constantly going through gates and across wheel rut tracks. A little bit of texture, a nice flax paper. You can hear that paper, that's the flax in the paper. It makes this lovely crackling sound. Tissue. There was one place that we camped, there was a single tree on the horizon. We called it the lollipop tree. Probably wasn't that big, but you could see it from miles and miles around. One morning we woke up and the clouds were all scudding across the sky, and then it started raining, lashing, stinging rain, disappearing the visible world. And then by lunchtime it stopped, and we were living on an island, our little camp in the donga, surrounded by water. But by the next morning it had all dried away and we were left with thick, gluey mud, and we couldn't move for 2 or 3 days. And again, the colours, just wonderful, searing colours. Sunsets. And the night sky is so clear, 1 billion stars. This one is a little emboss. We're using one of the actual plants, which I got a friend to send me from Kalgoorlie. And the trees, a lot of dead, lifeless but beautiful sculptural trees, always small though. The textures of the cracked earth. More sunsets. Another single tree on the horizon. Again, this is a little emboss. I liked the technique I used on these set of 4 pages was painting on the tissue, and I had the tissue on top of the gloss art that I used for the polished and painted pages, and the acrylics seeped through and gave me this mirror image on the back, leaving all these lovely, interesting marks. And there's my little die-cut rabbit burrow and that nasty trap.